Hello, everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here, welcome, and thanks for stopping by. If you enjoy commentary without all the fluff, join our family by subscribing. So, after a long, drawn out 14-year battle in court pertaining to James Brown's will, the South Carolina court may have found a solution, and this fight may be coming to an end finally. At the time of his passing, $850,000 was auctioned off to pay debts, and there was little to no money in his bank account. So you would think that all the folks with their hands out would disappear. But no. The issue at hand was that James Brown's estate was left largely to the underprivileged students in South Carolina and Georgia. But entering the chat is this self-professed wife of his, who refused to allow the courts to carry out his expressed wishes via this man's will. At the time of this new ruling, the judge, who was clearly frustrated, Justice Donald W. Beatty, had a question for Miss Tommy Ray Heine lawyer, and I'll get to her shortly, asking him if one scholarship had been given pursuant to Mr. Brown's will. He then asked another question saying, so all the people who've gotten any money out of this are the lawyers thus far? To which her attorney, Ann Allen Medlin, aptly named, responded, maybe some, Your Honor. The judge added that this litigation is quite bothersome, considering Mr. Brown's will was clear as far as his intent for the underprivileged of South Carolina and Georgia. 5 justices recently ruled unanimously that Miss Heine was not legally married to James Brown because she did not, and let me repeat, did not annul a previous marriage. You heard me right. She was married when she married James Brown. The recent decision, of course, has put a stop to her claim to James Brown's estate, which is reportedly valued from between $5 to $100 million. Additionally, there are copyrights to classics like I Feel Good and Say It Loud, as well as I'm Black and I'm Proud, that have potential value which were not part of the estate. If you've gotten this far, please like and subscribe. This decision, of course, does not automatically lead to an end of this litigation, unfortunately, because this woman most certainly intends to continue her appeals, and this recent ruling will not let those previous appeals disappear. The instructions from the Supreme Court to the lower court was as follows: to proceed with the probate of Brown's estate in accordance with his estate plan, which was explicit that there needs to be a charitable trust created to help educate poor children. So let's talk about Tommy Ray Heine. She was a singer. She met James Brown in 1998 after she performed in Vegas. After his transition, she proclaimed herself as his widow and has been the force driving this ongoing litigation pertaining to what she feels she should receive as a beneficiary. The story is as follows. Heine marries James Brown in 2001. At the time, she was married to another man named Javeed Ahmed. She claims that she had no idea he had 3 other wives in Pakistan, where he's originally from. Then, in 2004, James Brown files for an annulment when he found out that she was married. James Brown then suspiciously passes on Christmas Day in 2006 before the annulment was finalized. Her lawyers have argued that her husband, not James Brown, was a bigamist, and that her marriage was void, and not shockingly, the lower courts in South Carolina upheld that argument and ruled that her marriage to James Brown was valid. But then, in 2008, the state's highest court in South Carolina disagreed, saying, and I quote, all marriages contracted while a party having a living spouse are valid unless the party's first marriage has been declared void by an order of a competent court. Therefore, in this case, Miss Heine's marriage to Mr. Ahmed, no such declaration had occurred. So therefore, as of today, she is still the wife of Ahmed and not James Brown. So this woman, knowing that she was not this man's wife, declared herself as his spouse and of course made moves to get a share of James Brown's music rights, where she agreed to give 65% of any proceeds from her so-called termination rights, copyrights, that's once sold, can be returned to the songwriter or his heirs after several decades, according to the court papers. She also had given up, according to her lawyer, her contest to the estate and charitable trust, and had agreed to give substantial funds from her valuable federal rights to charitable trust for needy students. And according to her lawyer, if she had had her way, many more millions would have gone to the intended recipients of James Brown's will. So, enters the chat is Mark Tuberoff, the lawyer for his children, who, of course, criticized the initial ruling declaring her this man's wife. With the new ruling, he added that there was an injustice in the previous rulings and a wrong was righted by the Supreme Court now that she's declared to be not his wife. The children, of course, will benefit as heirs from the decision made where Miss Heine is no longer allowed to further benefit from the estate or any future copyright revenues. Heine also alleges that she had a son with James Brown named James Brown II, who is requesting to be considered as an heir to the estate. This after they sold termination rights in 5 of the songwriter works to a Warner Chappell music publisher for nearly $1.9 million in 2015, and is accused of making additional unlawful deals behind the backs of the rightful heirs, which her and that son of course deny. The lawyer that represents the 9 heirs said that they may be open to considering his request now that his mother is no longer deemed to be James Brown's wife by the courts. So for context, James Brown's will had set aside $2 million for scholarships for his grandchildren, and he had also designated that his costumes and other household effects were to go to his 6 children, and the rest of his estate was to be given in a trust to the poor called the I Feel Good Trust. So with all of that I just said, what do you think about this crazy story? How is it that this black man creates a will and states explicitly what he wants done at the time of his passing, and this so-called American justice system ignores his wish? I tell you, we haven't heard any issues with Elvis Presley's will, now have we? Then this character, Heine, do you think she's entitled to anything? Because believe it or not, she's still fighting, allegedly. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and we will discuss. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and share. Also, turn on your notification bell and stay tuned for more. And I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.